The alarm screamed through Deep Watch 7 like a dying animal. Commander Thale dropped his morning drink as the liquid splashed across his console, but he barely noticed. His 4 eyes focused on the impossible reading flickering across his screens. After 30 years of monitoring the Empire's most forbidden space, he had never seen anything like this. "Status report," Thale barked at his crew. The monitoring station hung silent in the void, surrounded by the swirling purple mists of the Ashra Nebula. Nothing was supposed to enter this space. Nothing had entered this space for over 2 centuries. "Sir, we have a contact," Officer Dren announced, his voice shaking. "It's moving through the outer defense grid. Impossible. The grid would vaporize anything larger than a meteor. The grid is intact, sir." "But the contact is still there." Thale's blood ran cold. He pulled up the tactical display and saw it himself. A ship, definitely artificial, definitely not Imperial design, was gliding through their impenetrable defenses like they didn't exist. The vessel was smaller than their smallest patrol craft, but it moved with purpose and direction. "Get me high." "Command," Thale ordered. "Priority Alpha." While his communications officer worked frantically, Thale studied the intruder. The ship's hull was smooth and angular, built for speed rather than intimidation. Its energy signature was unlike anything in the Imperial database. More disturbing was how it seemed to ignore their most advanced scanning attempts. "Sir, High Command is online." High Chancellor Vorth's massive form filled the screen. The reptilian leader's scales darkened with anger, a sure sign of his rising fury. "Explain yourself, Commander." "We have an unauthorized vessel in the restricted zone. It bypassed our entire defense network." "What species?" Thale hesitated. The answer would sound insane. "Human, sir." Silence stretched across the channel. Vorth's eyes narrowed to slits. "Repeat that." "The vessel is of human origin. We've confirmed the energy signatures match their primitive fusion drives. How did those savages get past our defenses?" "Unknown, sir. They're not following any known flight patterns. Their approach was completely unpredictable." Vorth's claws scraped against his command throne. The humans were supposed to be contained in their small corner of the galaxy, playing with their simple technologies while the Empire decided their fate. They were barely spacefaring, having only left their home system a few decades ago. "Where are they headed?" Thale checked his instruments. "Directly toward the ruins, sir." The channel went quiet again. The ruins were the Empire's greatest secret. The remains of the civilization that had ruled the galaxy before the Empire's rise. Whatever technology lay buried in those ancient structures could shift the balance of power across 1,000 worlds. "Mobilize the Crimson Guard," Vorth commanded. "Full deployment. Those humans must not reach the ruins." "Sir, wouldn't a single battlecruiser be sufficient? It's just one small ship." "You underestimate them, Commander. Humans are dangerous precisely because they're unpredictable. They don't follow proper military doctrine. They improvise, they adapt, they refuse to accept limitations." The transmission ended, leaving Thale staring at his screens. He had studied human military reports from the Empire's intelligence division. Their wars were chaotic, brutal affairs where logic often gave way to desperate creativity. They had a disturbing tendency to win battles they should have lost. Hours passed as the human ship continued its journey toward the nebula's heart. Thale watched helplessly as his most advanced sensors failed to penetrate the vessel's simple hull. The humans had done something to their ship, some modification that made it nearly invisible to Imperial technology. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human vessel." "Put it through." The screen flickered to life, showing a human male with graying hair and steady eyes. He wore a simple blue uniform with minimal decorations. "This is Reed of the Exploration." "Ship Defiant. We're conducting a peaceful survey mission in this region." Thale found his voice. "This is Commander Thale of the Imperial Monitoring Station. You are in violation of Imperial space. Withdraw immediately." Reed's expression didn't change. "We're not aware of any Imperial claims on this region. Our star charts show this area as unexplored. Your charts are wrong." This space has been restricted for over 200 years. Restricted by whose authority? The question caught Thale off guard. No one had ever questioned Imperial authority before. By the authority of the Galactic Empire. Earth never signed any treaty with your empire. We don't recognize your authority. Over free space, the transmission ended abruptly. Thale stared at the blank screen in shock. No species had ever spoken to Imperial authority with such casual dismissal. The humans acted like the Empire was just another government, not the supreme power of the galaxy. Sir, the human ship has entered the inner nebula. They're approaching the ruins. Thale activated the emergency beacon. Within hours, the most powerful fleet in the galaxy would converge on this position. 3 massive battlecruisers, each carrying enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. The humans would face the Empire's elite forces, commanded by Admiral Krex, the Empire's most decorated military leader. But as Thale watched the small human ship disappear into the purple mists, he couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. The humans had bypassed defenses that had never failed. They had spoken to Imperial authority without fear. They were heading toward secrets that could reshape the galaxy. For the first time in his career, Commander Thale wondered if 3 battlecruisers would be enough. The humans had already proven that Imperial assumptions about their capabilities were dangerously wrong. What other surprises were they hiding? Deep in the nebula, the human ship continued its journey toward the ancient ruins, carrying with it the potential to shatter the Empire's 1,000-year reign. The age of unquestioned Imperial dominance was about to face its greatest challenge from the most unexpected source, a species that refused to accept that anything was impossible. The ancient structures floated in the nebula like sleeping giants. Engineer Torres pressed her face against the viewport, watching massive metallic forms drift past in the purple haze. Each structure was larger than anything humanity had ever built, their surfaces covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change when viewed directly. "This is incredible," she whispered to herself. The ruins stretched for millions of kilometers in every direction, a vast cemetery of a civilization that had vanished long before the Empire rose to power. Reed moved through the ship's corridors, checking on his crew. The Defiant was small by Imperial standards, carrying only 30 people, but every one of them was essential. Navigator Hill worked at her station, mapping the complex maze of debris and structures that filled the nebula. "These formations don't match any known architectural patterns," Hill reported. "The builders used physics we don't understand. Some of these structures are bigger inside than outside." "Any signs of active technology?" Reed asked. "Negative, but the nebula is interfering. With our sensors, we're flying blind in here." Torres appeared at Reed's shoulder. "I'm detecting power signatures, faint but definitely artificial. Something down there is still active after all these centuries." Reed studied the tactical display. The ruins formed a rough spiral pattern, with the largest structures at the center. If the Empire had kept this place secret for 200 years, there had to be something extraordinary hidden in those depths. "Take us deeper," Reed ordered. "But keep us ready to run if things go wrong." The Defiant moved carefully through the floating debris field. Chunks of unknown metal drifted past, each one covered in the same shifting symbols. Torres worked frantically to analyze the materials, but her instruments gave contradictory readings. "The metal isn't metal," she announced. "It's some kind of crystalline matrix that behaves like metal but conducts energy like a superconductor. This technology is thousands of years ahead of anything we've seen." Meanwhile, far from the nebula, the Empire's response was swift and overwhelming. Admiral Krex stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Imperial Fist, watching 2 other battlecruisers take position around him. Each ship was a kilometer long, bristling with weapons that could sterilize entire worlds. "Status report," Krex demanded. "The human vessel is deep in the ruins, sir. They appear to be conducting some kind of survey." Krex's mandibles clicked with annoyance. The humans were like insects, small and seemingly insignificant, but with an annoying habit of appearing where they weren't wanted. "What do we know about their capabilities?" Intelligence reports suggest they're still using primitive fusion drives and projectile weapons. Their largest warships are barely 200 meters long, and yet they penetrated our defenses. Unknown. How, sir? The grid showed no breaches, no system failures. They simply appeared inside the perimeter. Krex studied the tactical display. The humans had done something impossible, which meant their intelligence reports were incomplete. Send the Drakmari squadron ahead. Test their defenses. Back in the nebula, the Defiant continued its exploration. Torres had managed to take samples of the strange metal, but her analysis revealed even more mysteries. The material seemed to respond to neural activity, growing warmer when she concentrated on it. "Reed, you need to see this," she called from the laboratory. Reed found Torres holding a small piece of the alien metal. It was glowing with a soft blue light, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. "It's reacting to me," she explained. "Not just to human presence, but to human thoughts. Watch this." She focused on the metal, imagining it changing shape. The fragment began to flow like liquid, reforming itself into different configurations. When she stopped concentrating, it returned to its original form. This is why the Empire kept this place secret, Reed realized. This technology could revolutionize everything. Medicine, engineering, space travel. "There's more," Torres said. "I've been analyzing the symbols on the structures. They're not just decorative. They're some kind of information storage system. The entire ruins are a massive database." Hill's voice came over the intercom. "We're approaching the central structure. It's massive, at least 50 kilometers across." Reed returned to the bridge and saw the structure Hill was describing. It was a perfect sphere, its surface covered in the glowing symbols. Unlike the other ruins, this one showed clear signs of activity. Energy patterns flowed across its surface like living veins. "Take us closer," Reed ordered Dot as the Defiant approached the sphere. Something unexpected happened. The symbols on its surface began to glow brighter, and a low humming sound filled the ship. The crew watched in amazement as sections of the sphere began to unfold, revealing docking ports designed for vessels much smaller than the massive structures around them. "It's responding to us," Torres said. "The ruins are designed to interact with smaller ships." Reed made a decision that would change everything. "Take us in. Dock with that port." "Sir, we don't know what's in there. We came here to explore. That's what we're going to do." The Defiant moved into the docking port, which sealed around them with a soft hiss. The ship's sensors detected atmosphere beyond the airlock, breathable by human standards. Whatever had built this place had considered the needs of smaller, more fragile visitors. As Reed prepared to lead an exploration team into the ancient structure, he received an urgent message from Hill. "Sir, we're detecting multiple ships entering the nebula. Imperial battlecruisers, at least 3 of them." Reed looked at the tactical display. The Empire's most powerful warships were converging on their position, carrying enough firepower to vaporize the Defiant without effort. But they were also carrying something else, the fear of what humanity might discover in these ruins. How long until they reach us? 6 hours, maybe less. Reed made another decision that would define humanity's future. "We're staying. Whatever's in here, it's worth the risk." The exploration team prepared to enter the ancient structure, unaware that they were about to unlock secrets that would shake the Empire to its core. The ruins had been waiting for thousands of years, and now the right species had finally arrived to claim their inheritance. The diplomatic shuttle approached the Defiant with elaborate ceremony. Ambassador Quen sat in the vessel's luxurious cabin, surrounded by the finest imperial protocols. His scaled hide bore the ceremonial markings of 1,000 successful negotiations, each one representing a species that had bowed to imperial authority. Reed watched the shuttle dock with their ship. The ambassador's vessel was larger than the Defiant, its hull covered in precious metals and energy shields that hummed with power. Everything about it was designed to impress and intimidate. "Welcome aboard," Reed said as Quen entered the airlock. The ambassador was massive, nearly 3 meters tall, with skin that shifted colors to indicate his emotional state. Right now, those colors suggested supreme confidence. "I am Ambassador Quen of the Galactic Empire," he announced in perfect standard. "I come to discuss your immediate surrender and withdrawal from this restricted space." Reed gestured toward the small conference room. "Would you like some refreshment? We have coffee, tea, water." Quen's skin flickered with confusion. No species had ever offered him simple hospitality during a formal surrender negotiation. "I require no sustenance. Let us proceed directly to the terms of your submission." "I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding," Reed said calmly. "We're not surrendering. We're conducting a peaceful exploration mission. Peaceful or not, you are in violation of Imperial law. This space has been restricted for over 2 centuries. The penalty for trespass is enslavement of your entire species." Reed poured himself a cup of coffee. "That seems a bit extreme for exploring empty space." "This space is not empty," Quen snapped. "It contains artifacts of significant strategic value. The Empire has claimed salvage rights to all materials in this region. Based on what legal authority?" Quen's skin darkened to deep purple. "By right of conquest. The Empire rules 1,000 worlds. We are the supreme authority in this galaxy." "That's nice for you," Reed said. "But humanity never agreed to your rule. We're not part of your empire. All species are part of the Empire, whether they acknowledge it or not. We have been monitoring your homeworld for decades. You're primitive. Civilization exists only because we permit it." Reed set down his coffee cup. "I think you have the wrong impression of humanity." "Do I? Your species has barely mastered interstellar travel." "Your largest warships would be destroyed by our smallest patrol craft. You have no allies, no advanced technology, no hope of resistance." "You're right about some of that," Reed admitted. "But you're wrong about one thing. We don't need permission to exist." Quen's skin flashed through several colors before settling on angry red. "Your defiance is noted. I will give you one final chance to surrender peacefully. And I'll give you one chance to leave our ship before we escort you out." The ambassador's mouth opened in shock. In 1,000 negotiations, no one had ever threatened to remove him from their vessel. "You dare threaten an Imperial ambassador?" "I'm not threatening anyone. I'm politely asking you to leave." Quen activated his communicator. "Admiral Krex, the humans refuse to surrender. They have threatened Imperial authority." The response came immediately. "Understood. Return to your ship. We will proceed with military action." As the ambassador's shuttle departed, Reed called his senior staff to the bridge. The situation was about to become much more dangerous. "What did you learn in the ruins?" he asked Doras. "The central structure is some kind of command center. The technology responds to human neural patterns in ways it doesn't for other species. I think the original builders were similar to us in some fundamental way." "Similar how?" "They were explorers, innovators. The database contains records of their expansion across the galaxy. They didn't conquer species, they invited them to join a cooperative alliance." Hill looked up from her navigation console. "The Imperial fleet is positioning for attack. 3 battlecruisers, each one carrying enough firepower to destroy a small moon." Reed studied the tactical display. The Imperial ships were massive, designed to intimidate as much as to fight. But they were also predictable, following standard fleet formations that any military academy would recognize. "How long until they're in weapon range?" 20 minutes. "Are the ruins' defenses still active?" Torres checked her readings. "Some. Systems are responding, but I can't tell what they do. The control interfaces are designed for species with our neural patterns. Then we'll have to learn fast." Reed made a decision that would echo through history. Instead of fleeing from the overwhelming Imperial force, he chose to fight. The Defiant was outgunned 1,000 to 1, but Red had something the Empire didn't expect: the refusal to accept impossible odds. "Open a channel to the Imperial fleet," he ordered. Admiral Krex's reptilian face appeared on the screen. "You will surrender immediately or face annihilation." "I have a different proposal," Reed said. You will withdraw from this region and never return. Krex's laughter was like grinding stone. You command one small ship against the Empire's finest warships. What possible threat could you pose? You're about to find out. The channel closed. Reed turned to his crew. Torres, get down to the ruins and activate whatever defenses you can find. Hill, plot us a course through the debris field. Banks, prepare all weapons. Weapons Officer Banks looked at his console in dismay. Sir, we have 6 torpedo tubes and, 2 plasma cannons. They have enough firepower to glass a continent. Then we'll have to be creative. The first Imperial attack came exactly on schedule. The lead battlecruiser fired a barrage of energy beams that could have vaporized the Defiant instantly. But the human ship wasn't where the computers predicted it would be. Reed had ordered a maneuver that violated every principle of space combat. Instead of maintaining formation and exchanging fire, the Defiant dove directly into the debris field, using the massive chunks of ancient metal as cover. Impossible, Krex muttered as his weapons missed their target. No ship can navigate that debris field at those speeds. Human ships can, his tactical officer replied. They're using manual navigation instead of computer control. The Defiant emerged from the debris field behind the Imperial formation. Banks fired both plasma cannons at the rear battlecruiser's engine section, causing massive explosions that sent the ship tumbling out of control, but the real surprise came when Torres activated the ruins' defenses. Ancient weapon systems that had slept for millennia suddenly blazed to life, filling the nebula with deadly energy patterns that targeted anything carrying Imperial signatures. The Empire's greatest fear was becoming reality. The humans weren't just surviving the encounter. They were winning. The nebula had become a battlefield unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Ancient weapons systems awakened from their million-year slumber, responding to Torres as she worked frantically in the ruins' command center. Her hands moved across control surfaces that flowed like liquid metal, adapting to her touch and thoughts. The entire complex is coming online, she reported to Reed. These aren't just ruins, they're a massive defensive network. The builders turned this whole region into a fortress. Reed watched through the viewports as structures throughout the nebula began to glow with renewed energy. Weapons platforms that had been mistaken for debris revealed their true nature, unfolding like deadly flowers. The Empire's 3 battlecruisers found themselves trapped in a maze of automated defenses that treated them as hostile invaders. Admiral Krex stood on his bridge, watching his tactical display with growing horror. The human ship had somehow awakened technology that predated the Empire by centuries. Ancient beam weapons carved through his shields like they were made of paper. Sir, we're receiving reinforcements, his communications officer announced. The 5th Fleet is en route. 12 battlecruisers and supporting vessels. How long until they arrive? 6 hours, sir. Krex studied the battle unfolding around him. The humans had turned the entire nebula into a weapon, and his ships were taking heavy damage from defenses they couldn't even see coming. Send them our tactical data? Tell them to approach with extreme caution. Back on the Defiant, Reed coordinated. The defense with Banks and Hill, the ancient weapons responded to their commands, but in ways that required constant adaptation. The technology wasn't just advanced, it was intelligent, learning from each engagement. The weapons are studying Imperial tactics, Banks reported. They're adjusting their fire patterns to compensate for enemy movements. How is that possible? I think the ruins are connected to some kind of central intelligence. It's been watching the Empire for centuries, learning their weaknesses. The battle raged for hours. Imperial ships tried to retreat, but the ancient defenses had formed a perimeter around the nebula. Energy barriers blocked their escape routes while automated weapons platforms picked off any vessel that tried to break through. During the fighting, Reed received an urgent transmission from Earth. Admiral Stone's weathered face appeared on the screen, his expression grim. Reed, what's your status? We're holding position, but the Empire has committed significant forces. They're treating this as a major threat, because it is. Your discovery has changed everything. The Senate has authorized full military mobilization. We're sending every ship we have. Reed felt a chill. Sir, that's not necessary. We can handle the situation here. No, you can't. Our intelligence indicates the Empire is mobilizing forces from across the galaxy. They're planning to wipe out humanity before we can share this technology with other species. The transmission ended, leaving Reed to contemplate the implications. What had started as a simple exploration mission was becoming a war between humanity and the galaxy's dominant power. But humanity had advantages the Empire couldn't understand. Torres emerged from the ruins with new information. I've accessed more of the database. The original builders faced the same choice we do now. They were challenged by a militaristic empire that demanded submission. What happened to them? They chose to fight. The records show a war that lasted centuries. They eventually won, but at a terrible cost. Their civilization was so damaged that they chose to abandon physical existence. Abandon it how? They uploaded their consciousness into the ruins' computer systems. They've been waiting here ever since, hoping another species would find them and learn from their experience. Reed stared at the ancient structures floating. Around them, they're still alive? In a sense. They've been guiding the defenses, helping us activate systems we don't understand. They want us to succeed where they couldn't. The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't just fighting the Empire, they were carrying on a war that had begun before human civilization existed. The ruins weren't just a weapon, they were a legacy. Admiral Krex was reaching the same conclusion from his perspective. The human ships' tactics were too sophisticated, too coordinated. They were receiving help from an intelligence that understood Imperial weaknesses better than the Empire understood itself. Sir, we're detecting massive energy buildups throughout the nebula. The ruins are preparing for something. What kind of something? Unknown, but power levels are increasing exponentially. The answer came when the ancient builders revealed their ultimate weapon. The entire nebula began to shift, revealing structures that were light years across. The ruins weren't just a fortress. They were a massive machine designed to project power across interstellar distances. Torres watched in amazement as the builder's consciousness guided her through the activation sequence. They're preparing to broadcast the technology to every inhabited world in the galaxy. They want to give all species the tools to defend themselves against the Empire. Can the Empire stop it? Not anymore. The broadcast will reach every star system simultaneously. Within days, thousands of worlds will have access to technology that makes Imperial weapons obsolete. Reed realized what the builders had planned. They weren't just helping humanity survive, they were ending the Empire's ability to dominate other species. The age of Imperial supremacy was about to end, replaced by a galaxy where every world had the tools to defend itself. But the Empire wouldn't surrender easily. As the ancient machine prepared to activate, Admiral Krex made a desperate decision. He ordered all remaining ships to ram the central structure, hoping to destroy the weapon before it could fire. The suicide attack failed. The ancient defenses vaporized the Imperial ships before they could reach their target. As the machine activated, sending its signal across the galaxy, Reed received a final transmission from the builders. Your species has the strength to finish what we started. The Empire's reign is ending. Use this gift wisely. The galaxy was about to change forever, and humanity would be at the center of that transformation. The emergency session of the Imperial High Council convened in chaos. Representatives from 1,000 worlds demanded explanations as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. The ancient broadcast had reached every inhabited system, and the consequences were immediate and devastating to Imperial authority. High Chancellor Vorth stood before the assembled delegates, his scales dark with fury and fear. The human discovery has triggered galaxy-wide rebellion. 73 worlds have declared independence in the past 6 hours. How is this possible? Demanded Councillor Drack. The humans are a primitive species with no political influence. The broadcast contained more than just technology, Vorth replied. It included historical records proving that the Empire deliberately suppressed technological advancement to maintain control. Every species in the galaxy now knows they were kept primitive by design. In the Ashran Nebula, Reed watched the ancient structures pulse with satisfied energy. The builder's plan had worked perfectly. The technology they had transmitted wasn't just weapons and defenses. It was the complete scientific knowledge of a civilization that had once spanned the galaxy. Status report, Reed requested. Torres smiled as she read the incoming data. The broadcast reached every major world in the galaxy. Species that haven't developed space travel in centuries are suddenly building starships. The Empire's client states are throwing off their chains. What about the Imperial response? They're trying to contain the situation, but it's too late. The knowledge is spreading faster than they can stop it. Hill looked up from her communications console. We're receiving a transmission from Admiral Stone. The human fleet has arrived. Reed stepped outside to observe the sight that would become legend. The entire human fleet, every warship that Earth could build, had taken position around the nebula. The vessels were smaller than Imperial battlecruisers, but there were hundreds of them, and they carried the most advanced technology in the galaxy. Admiral Stone's flagship, the massive dreadnought Indomitable, dwarfed the other human ships. Stone himself appeared on Reed's screen, his expression mixing pride and determination. Outstanding work, Reed. You've changed the course of galactic history. The builders did most of the work, sir. We just happened to be the right species at the right time. No, you were the right species because you refused to accept Imperial authority. That's what makes humans dangerous to empires. We don't recognize their right to rule us. As if summoned by their conversation, Imperial reinforcements began arriving. The Fifth Fleet emerged from hyperspace, followed by the Seventh, then the Ninth within hours. The largest military force in Imperial history had assembled around the nebula, but something was wrong. The Imperial ships weren't moving into attack formation. They were maintaining defensive positions, as if waiting for something. The answer came in a transmission from Admiral Krex. This is Admiral Krex of the Imperial Navy. I request immediate negotiations with the human commander. Reed accepted the transmission, curious about what the Empire wanted to discuss. Krex appeared on screen, his reptilian features showing signs of stress and exhaustion. What do you want to negotiate? Reed asked. Terms of surrender? Krex replied, the words hung in the air like a physical presence. Reed had expected many things. But not this. I'm not sure I understand. The Empire cannot fight a war against every species in the galaxy simultaneously. The ancient broadcast has triggered rebellions on over 300 worlds. Our military is stretched beyond breaking point. Then withdraw your forces and let the galaxy govern itself. It's not that simple. If the Empire collapses suddenly, the resulting chaos will destroy billions of lives. We need time to transfer power gradually. Reed considered the proposal. What are you offering? Recognition of human sovereignty and a seat on the Imperial Council? In exchange, humanity helps maintain order during the transition to a new galactic government. And if we refuse? Then we fight a war that will tear the galaxy apart. The Empire has weapons that can destroy entire star systems. If we're going to fall, we'll take half the galaxy with us. Reed ended the transmission and consulted with his crew. The decision they made would affect trillions of lives across the galaxy. What do you think? He asked Torres. I think they're right about the chaos. The ancient records show what happened when their empire fell. Centuries of war and suffering. But do we trust them to honor the agreement? Does it matter? They don't have a choice. The technology is already spreading. Within a generation, every world will be able to defend itself. Reed made his decision. Open a channel to the Imperial fleet. Admiral Krex reappeared on screen, hope and fear battling in his expression. We accept your proposal, Reed announced. But with conditions. All Imperial forces withdraw from human space immediately. All restricted technologies are shared freely. And any species that chooses independence gets it, no questions asked. Agreed. The formal negotiations lasted 3 days. The treaty that emerged, signed aboard the Defiant in the heart of the ancient ruins, would be remembered as the beginning of the end of the Imperial Age, but the real victory belonged to the human spirit. In the face of impossible odds, humanity had refused to bow to tyranny. They had awakened ancient allies, unleashed suppressed knowledge, and shown the galaxy that empires could be challenged. As the Imperial fleet withdrew from the nebula, Reed received a final message from the builders. Your species has proven worthy of our legacy. The galaxy is yours to shape. Choose wisely. The ruins began to fade, their energy finally exhausted after millions of years of patient waiting. The builders' consciousness merged with the technology they had spread across the galaxy, ensuring that their knowledge would never again be suppressed. Reed looked out at the stars, knowing that humanity had just inherited a galaxy full of possibilities. The Empire's 1,000-year reign was ending, and the age of cooperation was beginning. The human warship that had caused panic in the Empire had become the catalyst for galactic revolution. And it was only the beginning.